the good stuff.
Welcome back, everybody, to Goodwill Podcasting with Dan and Stone, your movie podcast that today is reviewing Weapons, one of the most anticipated movies of the entire year, possibly the best horror film of the entire year, even though many people seem to have forgotten Sinners, but that's okay. Starring, of course, Julia Gardner, Josh Brolin, Alden Ehrenreich, Benedict Wong, and many others, written and directed by Zach Cregger, coming off his, I would say, cult classic movie that a lot of people didn't see coming, but 2022's Barbarian. We're here to discuss it. It is out now. It is taking over the internet. And right now it's about to take over Goodwill Podcasting for about an hour or so. But me and Dan are not going to talk about it alone. No, we have a very good friend of ours for his second time on the pod, almost a third. Second time. We've been on your podcast, but second time on ours, Midnight Film Review, a.k.a. Mr. Brian. Thank you so much for being with us on a late Sunday night talking about this horror movie.
It's a pleasure to be here. I was super stoked when Dan texted me because I was just telling him yesterday I really want to talk to him. And not that I don't want to talk to you, but I was just saying, hey, I want to talk to you about this movie.
I mean, I respect you so much, Brian. I got a big old X right here. I'll click it if you want. And I can tell me how it goes.
I'm excited to hear your thoughts too, but I didn't plan a podcast this week, and I was just telling Dan, like, I wish I would have hit him up and be like, hey, I need to podcast with you because I needed someone to talk to about this movie. And yeah. But you're here too. Let's talk about it, man. I'm excited.
I was thinking about your podcast today, actually, because I looked at the top 10 box office for the summer. For people who don't know, we did a ranking of what we thought the top 10 box office movies were going to be for the summer so far. And I think both of y'all kicked my ass, at least with the Lilo and Stitch pick. I think you guys were like right on the money. That's when I sucked at. But speaking of box office, dude, whether anybody likes this movie or not, just the success that it's had. I mean, I believe it opened with 42 million. Jordan Peele missed out, I guess. That's like the big story with this. Jordan Peele wanted this movie, didn't get it.
Yeah,
Brian, I was gonna say, you said you were stoked to come on the pod and talk with us. You really want to talk with Dan? I guess me as well. But what were your thoughts about going into the movie? Like, had you watched Barbarian? Were you a fan of it? And did the marketing work on you? How are you feeling?
Yeah, no. So I loved Barbarian. I thought it was just like this really out of the box. Wasn't something that we had been getting from the horror genre really in the age of elevated horror. It seemed to just kind of a throwback. I described it in my review as like an 80s horror film. It felt really, different, something out of the box. And, Zach Cregger is somebody that I had followed, The Whitest Kids You Know, I thought was hilarious. And so I was shocked when I found out that he was the director of that film, actually, because I didn't realize it until after I saw it. So he's been on my radar. But one thing about me, Stone, is I don't typically watch trailers, and I try to stay away from all marketing just because I don't want to be spoiled on anything. I want to go in. Are you a fan of Game of Thrones?
Sure.
So the Unsullied?
Yes.
Yeah, that's me when it comes to trailers on the Unsullied.
So do you purposely like show up 25, 30 minutes into the showtime of a movie and miss everything?
Yeah, I try to. I mean, if it's gonna be, I don't want to be a jerk and walk around people. So if it's gonna be a busy and I know it's gonna be like a packed theater, then I'll show up and I'll just kind of keep my headphones in and kind of just like zone out with maybe a podcast or music until like I know that things are getting ready to roll, and then I'll shut everything down and wrap it up, put it in my pocket. But yeah, I try to show up a little bit later. I used to love trailers, but they give away too much now. So if it's a movie that I know I'm going to see and it's a creator I like, then I'm going to 100% not watch the trailer.
Well, I will say when it comes to Weapons for his next movie, I mean, this is just something you do, but I think a lot of people have said that even from the trailers, this was not what they were expecting. And I think it's because the trailers, if you go back and watch them, it seemed like your typical horror movie, as in it was very serious, very ominous, very creepy. And I don't really necessarily, we'll get into it, but I don't necessarily think that's what like 50% of Weapons is. I don't think people expected so much characters in this movie, so much character studies that we got. And there's a big, huge character that has red hair that was not revealed at all in any of the trailers. I don't know if you know that or not. Nobody knew that character was going to pop up. But Dan, I don't know if we've ever talked about Barbarian. What are your thoughts on it?
I think I feel about the same about this as I do about Barbarian. I think it's like a funny, enjoyable movie that I watched and never thought about again. And I feel like it got talked about, leading up to this, and I kind of feel like we'll talk about this when he makes his next movie. I don't know. I feel like they're very similar. I think they both kind of tried to be subversive. I think I like Barbarian better. I thought it was really, really, really funny, and I feel like it was like I enjoyed the way it was subversive. Like I liked the direction it took. Um, I think I have it at like 3 stars, but I feel like if I watched it again, it might be like a little bit higher. I did enjoy it, but um, same kind of thing where the marketing didn't quite show you what you were going to get.
Nothing with Justin Long.
I think that worked to the. I think that helped Barbarian. I don't know that. I think that might leave some people disappointed with this movie, but that's just movie marketing these days, I guess.
I'll still stand by this fact that I've said over the past couple of years. I think the funniest joke or scene that I've ever seen in the last 5 years for a movie was when Justin Long started measuring that basement to see the square footage. I thought that was the fucking funniest thing ever. He's like in these back rooms with like a dirty bed. Obviously, someone was held there, but he doesn't care. And then he finds an even crazier staircase. Like there's a secret wall beyond the secret wall, and he pushes it open. He's just like, "Fuck yeah!" It's just like keeps on going down there. Justin Long in that movie is so good. Such a great actor, very underrated actor. But I like Barbarian a lot. I feel the same thing, Dan. I love the subversion of its framework. I think that's why a lot of people liked that and this movie. Besides Sinners, a lot of horror movies nowadays that people are used to, either The Conjuring or even I was thinking like The Woman in the Yard, Until Dawn. The Woman in the Yard's a little bit darker than anybody expected, especially towards the end, I believe. But I think tonally and the pacing, and you know how these movies kind of work. Like there'll be jump scares, and eventually it'll culminate, and that's about it. And Kreger just doesn't do that. And I think you nailed it. I think he makes very entertaining movies. And I guess we can maybe get into our spoiler-free thoughts of Weapons first. But that was the one thing so me and Dan, Brian, you don't know this. This is going to be an interesting conversation. I haven't checked out Dan's review. All I heard him say was, "This is the funniest movie of the year." And then I saw his rating on Letterboxd, and I was like, interesting. I'm curious what comes after that. But it's funny because I was about to text him that I have grown on this movie over the last couple of days, thinking about it more and more, hearing interpretations of it from different people, hearing Kreger's perspective as to why he wrote this movie. It's grown on me a lot, and I think Dan still likes it. We talked about it before we jumped on, but he's gone down on it just a little bit, likes it more than Barbarian, like he said. But have you heard why he wrote this movie?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because like with Trevor Moore, because you watch The Whitest Kids, you know. So there was I did not. So there was 5 members, correct?
Yes. Yep.
Okay. And Trevor Moore was a member of that. So he wrote this movie in post-production of Barbarian as a way to handle his grief with the passing of his friend. And something that wasn't necessarily spoiled in the trailers, but it is integral to the movie, and you figure it out 20 minutes in, so I'm not going to necessarily count this as a spoiler, is that it was compared a lot to Magnolia, and this is kind of how the structure of the movie is that you have 6 different characters, really, and their perspectives of this event that happens with 17 children disappearing from one classroom, disappearing in the middle of the night at 2:17 in the morning. And I found that extremely fascinating, but I'll elaborate on that a little bit more when I get into my thoughts of why I like the movie. But what did you think, Brian?
So I mean, I knew that there was kids missing. That was pretty much the only thing I knew about this movie coming into it. I didn't have this, like, I didn't see any of the trailers. Obviously, I expected it to be a horror film.
You saw the poster. You saw the arms stretched out wide.
Yeah, I saw the poster. And obviously, I mean, it's kind of hard in today's climate to not get little bits and pieces of things here and there, right? So I kind of knew the general idea behind it, but I went in pretty blind. And one thing that caught me off guard just from the jump was and I at first I was like, am I in the right theater? I was not expecting there to be a child's voiceover in the beginning. It really caught me off guard, and I think as we dig into this a little bit deeper, it kind of reveals why he made this movie the way he did and the way he uses children in the film. But I love this movie. I think that this I don't think it's really a horror movie in a lot of ways. Like I just left this, and I do agree that it's funny. This is a very funny film. I was cracking up laughing, especially in the last act. We're in spoilers, right?
Spoiler free for now.
Spoiler free. Okay.
Yeah.
So in the last act, yeah, I was like cracking up at times, like because it genuinely is funny, and I think he's doing that on purpose. And we'll get into that more. But I really enjoyed this film. I think that so the previous episode I was on was Eddington, and we had our disagreements on it. You loved it, Dan hated it. I was like in the middle. I think the social commentary in this movie is done 20,000 times better than Eddington. I think that what he's saying and the way he's saying it, there are so many layers to the onion and ways to peel this back that just I'm in love with this movie. There are some issues I do have with some of the pacing, especially in the first act, that I think it hurts the overall narrative just because he kind of meanders a little bit through that first act, and like we'll get into it in spoilers, but I do think that there are issues with pacing, and I think that if you cut like 15 minutes off of this movie, it might actually be almost a perfect film for me. And I think it's missing one character that we can talk about later too, that I would have liked to have seen in injected into this just because of the social commentary. But yeah, overall, I gave this an 8 out of 10. I left the theater. This is like my favorite films of the year so far. It's like Sinners, Elio, Weapons. Those are my top 3 right now.
Wow. That is I'm still I still like Sinners with this. I mean, you guys before we recorded were making fun of my K-pop Demon Hunters love, and I will always. I mean, my top 5 on Spotify this year honestly might be half Sinners, half K-pop Demon Hunters. Like I love music, and I cannot get over Sinners and the surprise I had while watching that film and how much music was in that. Speaking of music, one thing I wanted to point out just right now before I forget is I thought the score in this movie was very good.
Good. Yep.
And I found out that was actually Kreger who did that with 2 of his childhood buddies. They had a band growing up, and basically he would have an idea and just shoot the idea to those guys. And they knew because they grew up together basically what he wanted. They would put it together. And I thought the score was excellent in this, way better than Barbarian. I don't even remember a score of Barbarian really. And I just watched that movie. We watched it about a week or 2 ago. But yeah, the more I thought about this movie, the more I heard Kreger talk about it, the more I really dug it, because it doesn't seem like Kreger was trying to say that he's not trying. He's trying to vent in a way to me with these characters, and he's showing, like he said, I try to break it down here. I was trying to be all smart or whatever, and I was trying to, because this is about the passing of his friend. This is about Trevor Moore. And he said, what Josh Brolin said, why he signed on to this movie was because these are, he loved the idea of this is 5 different ways with the 5 different characters before we get to Alex, the young kid who's left in the classroom at the very end. These are 5 ways that he dealt with his grief. And I was trying to break down exactly what each chapter was supposed to be and how possibly Zach Kreger dealt with everything. And with the first one with Justine, I thought of alcoholism because she's a big drinker. Here's the thing I love most about this too. Let me just shoot this. What do you guys think about this whole idea that's going around right now about this possibly being about school shootings?
Oh,
Dan.
Sorry.
No, sorry, Brad.
You asking me?
Yeah, I'm curious to hear what you think about that.
I think that's where everyone's mind kind of would go to, and I honestly, I kind of find the movie a little bit gutless in a way, because I don't think it really necessarily says much about that. I mean, you have your floating gun, which Kreger said, "Well, I don't know why I did that. I dreamed it, whatever." Um, I think it's tough to make a movie like this and not say much about the kids and not really say much about the actual effects on the community. I think the movie starts out with this really like intense focus on. You kind of have that meeting where all the parents are there, right, and they're kind of questioning her. You don't truly see, in my opinion, like enough of the impact of what happens on everyone. Like this feels like a very small town where they all know each other very well in some ways. In other ways, it feels like no one pays attention to anyone. But it feels like it should be something that this place can't really recover from. And I would have liked to see more of that, like more interactions with different parents, more of the kind of impact outside of just seeing. I mean, you get Josh Brolin's perspective there to represent that, but I would have liked to see more of like how everyone was feeling, because it's such a dark, and we'll get into this, but I think this is where you get into some of the tonal problems, because this is such a dark story, and it's a story that's kind of dealing with stuff that happens in America today, but at the same time, it is very funny and it is a comedy, and I'm not sure that necessarily was the movie to do that with, even though I do think it is funny. I wish it had a little bit more teeth to it, but I do agree with Brian. I do think that there is commentary there on how we react to things, how we treat each other, how people kind of lose their minds, and I think each of these people is sort of dealing with a different vice, in a way, or representative of a different problem in society. So I do think it's interesting, and I do think it's a good movie. I just, in a way, I think it feels a little toothless in that facet.
I think the toothless part of it is actually a good aspect from what you just said, because, like you said, there's a lot of comedy in this film, and there's a lot of darkness in this movie. But let's say Kreger flat out made this movie about school shootings. Like that is what he was trying to speak about, which he'll even tell you that's not what he was trying to that's not what he was trying to do. That is people's interpretations of what is going on in the film, which are completely understandable. But if that is what he was blatantly trying to do, and then he included all this comedy, then I feel like I would have an issue with that. But the fact that I think it's a beautiful thing that a lot of people are able to see all the comedy in this movie and have a really good time with it, as well as taking this serious message of how all these aspects of this small town could lead to a tragic accident like this. So I find it really fascinating that people are able both to take this movie seriously and find it funny at the exact same time. But like I said, because Zach Kreger wasn't necessarily trying to make that hard hitting of a film, it seemed like to me he was mostly just trying to make a really entertaining movie. Even though he was trying to process his grief, he keeps it flowing very quickly with all the different perspectives. I think the jump scares are all very effective. The comedy is effective as well. But I don't know. I find it because it's gutless, as you point it, and it's not really trying to hit anything home too much. I think it allows for that comedy to sneak in a little bit better.
I agree with that. I find it funny because I feel like it's one of those movies where everyone's going to try to assign so much meaning, and I've seen all these things about oh, this is 217. It's I don't think this movie means much. I think it's an entertaining, fun, funny movie, just like Barbarian was. And I think obviously it's fun to do all that stuff. I just think I don't think Kreger was thinking any of the stuff I've really seen said about it in a way, and that's. But again, once something's out there, it can be interpreted however people would like. So,
I think that. So, I mean, I didn't know that Kreger said this isn't. The comments that I've seen him make is kind of he doesn't want to tell people what to think. That's what I've heard him say. He wants you to take whatever, whatever your thoughts on the film, he wants you to kind of explore that yourself. It's hard for me to buy that he didn't have school shootings in mind when he made this film. It's hard for me to believe that. And maybe that's him being gutless and not standing on it, or maybe it's him not wanting to answer questions about it, or maybe it's just him literally wanting to let his art breathe. My favorite creator of all time is Paul Thomas Anderson, and he famously will not talk about meanings of his film. He doesn't explain anything. He will just literally be like, if that's what you think, then that's what you think about the movie. Like, he's not going to hand it out to the masses. I'm not saying that Gregor is on that level. Maybe he is, maybe he's not. We've seen 2 films from him, but I think that the social commentary in this, it just like, I mean, maybe I was overthinking it, like, but I do see so much in this movie about how we weaponize our children, right? I mean, this movie's it's titled Weapons, and the children are used as weapons. Like, there's a lot to dig in. I don't want to spoil anything, but I think that me personally, you can't walk away from this and not see the social commentary. Like, I think it's absolutely crazy to think that he did not have these things in mind. Maybe he was blindly throwing darts at a dartboard and hit a bullseye. I don't know. Maybe that is the case, but I feel like there's like a lot of layers to peel back here.
When we talk about everything being political, even if it's like subconscious, like your writing is always going to be a problem. Like, you can't make this movie and not think about kids being murdered in their school, right? Like, You're not a fucking robot. So like, there's no way, I think, at least subconsciously, he didn't do that. But I think, like I said, anything you're writing, you're pulling from the times, and you're pulling from what people have experienced. I mean, I think 17 kids died at Sandy Hook. I mean, this stuff happens way too often in the country. I think when we get into what happens in this movie, that's kind of what, I mean, we'll talk about it. I would have liked a little more, I guess.
We talked about the comedy. I think that all the performances are pretty superb. I was really impressed with, I won't necessarily won't say just yet who her character is, but when Amy Madigan, who plays a very specific character in this movie, when she is talking to Alex, the one kid that's left in this class, I was astonished by both of them. Like, who's Alex? Carrie Christopher, this one kid that's left in this class, truly breathtaking performance by him, saying so much with so little words. I thought Brolin was great. It would have been interesting to see Pedro Pascal in that role. I know that he was originally supposed to be that. He could have done it. I think Josh Brolin is a little bit scarier, and this is a very aggressive man who's trying to find something or someone to vent to in an aggressive manner. Julia Gardner, I thought, was very good as well. But something I really like about all these characters with the context of the story, none of them are good people. And I think that's where it's hard not to think about the school shooting. I had like a 2-hour conversation with my brother about this movie and how he interpreted it. And it's the fact that I think the police, I think teachers, I think that fellow students' parents, there's bullying, and you see this child being bullied. Obviously the police force, and maybe just the town in general with the character, what's his name, James, this druggie who's in the story as well. I think all these contributing factors, all these actors do a great job there's so much nuance to each of these people. Like, you want to believe she's trying to be a good teacher, but then she's out just getting drunk and following kids. I'm like, when she did that, I was like, probably shouldn't have followed children, but it's okay. You care, but maybe care a little bit too much sometimes. Yeah, I think it's all good. I thought each of these characters, these actors, I think also fit, especially like Benedict Wong and Josh Brolin. They fit Gregor's writing and his comedy. They really nail it. I think he did a great job casting everyone in this.
I agree. I think that Alden Ehrenreich, this is his best performance since Hail Caesar. When I saw Hail Caesar, I was like, dude, this guy is going to be a freaking superstar. Like, this guy is going to be awesome. And then, I mean, whatever, the Han Solo movie is what it is. But he hasn't. I mean, Oppenheimer, he was fine.
He's good in that movie, though. Like, he is the best part of that movie. Even though
Agreed.
He's one of my favorite parts of Oppenheimer. He's like my third favorite performance in Oppenheimer. I love him in Oppenheimer.
No, he's good in Oppenheimer too. I completely agree. But this was like the guy that I saw in Hail Caesar. Like, I just that character is so flawed but so relatable. Like, right? Like, I mean, you can relate to him, even though he's like just a piece of garbage. But I think that's kind of digging into this a little bit more, and I'll talk about this specifically when we get spoilers. Is like, there are like, I do think that this is about school shootings, but I also think this is about the way we treat each other and the way that we handle, he mentions grief, like he wrote this, but like specifically, Justine, Julia Garner's character, who, by the way, Julia Garner was fantastic in this as well. I'm not a fan of hers. She's 2 for 2 this year. Like Silver Surfer, that performance was awesome. I think she did a fantastic job. But I have not liked her in anything since Ozark.
Did you check out Wolfman?
Yeah, and I didn't think she was. I liked that movie. I actually had Dan on my podcast to talk about it. She was like the worst part of that movie, in my opinion.
Well, I don't think it's her fault. They didn't give her anything for that movie. They wasted her. Her character's a nothing burger in that.
Yeah, I mean, I like that movie a lot, actually. Like it's one thing me and Dan really agreed on was like I really enjoyed that movie, but like her performance wasn't. I don't think anything. She honestly, yeah, maybe it was the script, but the character of Justine I think is really important because, like you mentioned, her following the boy home. Well, so much of that is because she missed maybe something, right? She's feeling like she missed something in the classroom. She didn't do enough. What did she do? How did she let him down? What is going on? And I think that, I think her performance is great, but I think that it goes to like, there is a reason that the characters in this class or in this movie are a teacher, a policeman, an administrator, a blue collar worker who is also a father, and a junkie. Like those are 3 types of people that make up this film. And I was mentioned before, I don't know if you heard Dan, but I do think that there's a character missing that would have completed this, and it is somebody in the church, a religious figure. I would have liked to have seen that brought into to kind of round out things, because I think that each of these people play a role in the downfall of our children and our society. And, whether it's school shootings or other issues, each of these, institutions and people need to do their job to make our society function. And I think this movie does a great job of breaking down each one, of showing like we are failing in each of these aspects and why and how we can possibly change.
I think that's great. The religious figure, that would have been great. Yeah, would have been. I mean, this movie was almost 2 hours long, so
yeah,
would have been.
But are we?
A little bit.
I think that's like more the kind of movie that I like wanted it to be. I think if you include something like that and include the element of religion, you might get closer to like saying more than he wanted to say. But like I guess I thought it was funny you said Justine maybe felt like she missed something. She did miss something that was like shockingly obvious that happened right in front of her. That's just like, to me, was bad writing. But I guess sure. But I thought it was funny how they were all kind of like, every character is sort of focusing on the wrong thing. Like she is so concerned about how she's being viewed. She's like putting her own self-pity, and she's choosing to wallow and to drink, and to be paranoid and to like view the world in that way, rather than like really focusing on her classroom or what happened. Because like, again, there is something really big that she missed. And Josh Brolin is so he almost feels like he's like obsessive about this stuff. He's like, you can tell it's completely consumed his life. He's sleeping in his son's bed. Like he's so hyper fixated on this and fixated on her too. Like he's graffitiing her car. Like he's doing all this crazy stuff again, rather than just focusing, which he is able to do eventually. But you have a police officer who's focused on abusing this drug addict because he can, and he can get away with it, and he's doing that and chasing him around rather than focusing on his job. And you have an addict who's focused on money and just getting his next fix, and he literally has the answer, and that's a secondary thing to him. These kids' health is a secondary thing to him. Everyone is putting whatever they care about ahead of these kids.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
But yeah, I agree. I think that's a great point, that a religious aspect of this could have been really powerful. But I guess when you say you feel like it's about school, like, what do you think it has to say? Like, I understand the connection can be there, but like, what do you think it's actually saying at the end of the day?
I think it's saying that rather than looking for the answers, right, to solve this problem, we're looking to blame each other. We're looking to blame institutions. We're looking to blame figures, and each institution is pointing fingers at the other, right? And instead of taking a deep look at society, I think that we can't reveal, I guess, the character, but there's a character in this who I think represents society, and this movie is a lot about control and who's controlling what and when and how manipulation works and who's manipulating who and when, and just instead of really using what is happening in society and trying to solve the problem, we're using the victims or the people to or the positions of power to kind of point fingers rather than come up with solutions. This is the way I look at it.
I'll say we're about 30 minutes in now, so I think we can get into some spoiler territory. I want to talk about the gun. I think Dan mentioned it just a little bit, but there's an AK-47 in a specific sequence where Josh Brolin is dreaming, and he looks above his own house and he sees a weapon up there, a literal weapon floating above his house. And like Dan had said, Predator comes. AR-15. Sorry.
It is a somewhat important distinction.
So sorry. I'm not a gun guy. Apologize.
That's okay.
But me and my brother were talking about it a little bit, and you said, what does this movie have to say about school shootings? I think there's something very important that people are missing when it comes to that item, that floating item, is where it's located, and it's above Josh Brolin's house. And we find out later in the movie of a huge, like the twist of the movie necessarily isn't Gladys, the aunt character, and what she's been doing. That's kind of a twist. But the big thing at the end is you find out the person who's been bullying Alex is none other than Josh Brolin's son. And you put the pieces together of why this has all happened, right? Why did these kids disappear? Well, it could be the fact that Josh Brolin is a terrible father, and he never told his son he loved him. So that translates into his son not being a very good kid and bullying another child and getting this child used to not saying anything at all, right? He's used to pushing down his feelings because that's what he's been doing for a while now, because that's how he is at school. So when this aunt character comes in, someone that can manipulate him, she says, don't say anything at all. He's used to that. And so you have an entire class that disappears. I mean, how many times has school shootings happened because bullying, right? This child probably has nothing good. It's not always children who do it, right? But if there's any, because this child is the cause of this disappearance of all these children. So I'm trying to connect the dots as to why this happened. And I think it all happens with Josh Brolin. And it's showing you that there's so many factors. It's the teacher too, right? The teacher supposedly is a good teacher. He is getting bullied in school and she does not notice. Even though she thinks that she's such a good teacher, she's like, what's wrong? Like, wouldn't you know that if you were paying attention just a little bit more?
She does notice. She throws the kid out of the class the one time. When he throws something at the kid.
Yeah, I guess I would have wanted that to just elaborated on even more. But it's also like the police. The police literally have his family come and they're not investigating him, but asking him questions about everything that had happened. And obviously you have two figures in this child's life who aren't necessarily, it doesn't compute, right? You have one guy who's completely looks off and another person looks completely off, and Aunt Gladys. And the police aren't taking this situation seriously. And I think it's all these connecting factors in Alex's life and that surround his life that contributed to the fact of him, of this entire catastrophe happening. Like I said, that's what I really got from the AR-15, not the AK-47 or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, I mentioned that because that's the weapon that was mostly used in school shootings. I think it's important.
Yes.
But I also wanted to say, I think it is a little bit, and I've been pushing back against this argument. I don't think there's a kid out there that if they felt like their parents were going to die would say anything. Like, I think it's a bit dangerous to get into that, because I think then I've seen people saying like basically the kid was going along with it or he was okay with it because he was getting bullied. Like, I don't think that's the case at all. I think he was very upset. I think he made a point to show that he was just trying to like manage the situation. But I don't think there's a kid, whether they were the most popular kid or the most bullied kid, that would, if they thought their parents were going to be eating each other is going to say shit. They're going to do what they're told. So I just feel like I think if there was a way out for him where he could have helped them or helped everyone, I think he would have, even though he had been bullied.
I'm saying it was like easy for him to do it, like suppress his feelings and not talk about it, because that's what he has done for a while now. I mean, his dad will ask him like, how was school? He doesn't tell his dad what's going on at school. His life is miserable at school, but he's used to doing that. So when another adult says, hey, don't say anything at all, obviously he wants to save his parents, but I'm sure he's just like, all right, that's just another day kind of a thing. Another horrible thing that is happening to me that I'm going to have to express my feelings for. Life's just terrible for this kid. This is exactly why he doesn't talk to his teacher.
Yeah, I don't really feel like he has an option. Or I don't really think any kid would have an option.
So I think we're kind of taking it too literally, though. Like, I think this is a fairy tale. Like, that's the thing to remember too, is like this. I mentioned this in the beginning. Like, we have that voiceover of the little girl talking, and this is a fairy tale, right? So like he doesn't have the option, but I think that it's also important, like, to think he doesn't think he has an option, right? And that's kind of the point, is like, you know, this is, I'm not defending school shooters, but a lot of times they feel like this is their only option, right? This is the only thing that they have left. Obviously, we know they're wrong, but the people around them, the grown-ups around them, haven't given them the tools. The people who are in charge, the teachers, the cops, the parents, haven't given them the right tools to cope. They don't recognize what's happening, and so things break down internally, and they feel like this is my only option. You know, I'm not saying that's the case in every situation, but that's the way that I would read this.
Also, I think you can see that there's a failure of the school system with the fact that Benedict Wong's characters never met his parents before.
I did think that was pretty wild too, and that's a very good point. And that's kind of like what I was saying, like administrative. Like, he has let this kid down administratively because he didn't notice, the teacher didn't notice, the administration didn't notice, the cops didn't notice. Like you mentioned, Josh Brolin's character didn't notice what his son was doing to, you know, hurt this other kid. Like, just there's so many things that just where we are hurting our children because we are not giving them the I'm sorry, I'm starting to get a little emotional. The attention and the respect they deserve, right? Sorry.
You're good, Brian.
You're
Do
good.
you guys think that Benedict Wong's character Marcus felt like a little bit of like a caricature in a way? Even the scene with like the hot dogs, I was like, what is this? Like,
Dude, that's up there with like the Home Alone 2 pizza. That shit looks so good. It's so funny when me and my brother were talking about this movie. We both said at like the exact same time, like, that shit looks so good. I think Benedict Wong's character is supposed to be a stand-in for avoiding and trying to normal. And I think that is what maybe the cartoonish looking food is supposed to represent. Or perfect normal life, even to a point where it's ridiculous. But then he comes knocking at your door. Life's not normal. Like, you have to deal with what is happening. And I think that's what Benedict Wong this entire time, like, he's the one at the meeting where he's like, all right, school's back in session. Everyone's like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, we're not done with this yet, and you're trying to start this whole thing over again. Every single time Julia Gardner calls him, he's like, yo, just leave him alone. We'll deal with it. So that's what I really saw in his character. And I like that he feels like the one who gets punished the most out of everyone is someone who's just trying to ignore this tragic event that is happening when you just can't do that. And that's what I saw. Probably Zach Cregger was trying to communicate with how he's dealing with his friend's death. Like, that we all have that feeling, like, I just want to forget that this thing ever happened, but you got to process it because it won't go away.
Yeah, I mean, so the caricature part, I'll be honest with you, that it was funny, right? Like, that was a very humorous part, but it was a little baffling. Like, I don't like, yeah, like, just that scene, like, she's bringing, like, I mean, let's just say they're gay, right? Like, so it's a gay couple. He's bringing hot dogs, and he's just like, oh, I'm not like that was like just a
Yeah,
really
like to be blunt, I think it felt pretty weird, and a little bit like I don't know. He's never talked to like a gay man before. Like they just felt like very different from everyone else, and I feel like when you get into how different Gladys felt from everyone else, there's like definitely I feel like a conversation to be had there. But I don't know, just kind of something I was thinking about in the movie. It just felt a little strange to me.
Yeah, I want to, if you don't mind, like before I started crying on your podcast, I don't think you had that on your. Did you have that on the bingo list? Have you had someone cry on this podcast yet?
Probably.
Oh, I was hoping.
I think
sometimes Dan says stuff to me, and it just really gets me.
Stone cries into his pillow later.
I have a son, so I get emotional when especially about this subject. But I'm gonna try to hold it together. I'm gonna try to hold it together for this because I wanted to finish my point before I break down. And I think that again, the religious aspect is missing here, and this could, I think, just maybe he doesn't know enough about religion. Maybe he didn't have the balls to put it in there. I don't know, but I think having something, about religion, because Jesus says, "Suffer the little children to come unto me." Like that's an important part of Jesus' ministry is the children, right? Talking about the least of these is the most. They're the innocent ones, and so I think that's a huge miss in an opportunity in this movie. And yeah, I mean, I think that like Benedict Wong's character in particularly, and again, it's kind of an awkward character. I do kind of think it's. I hate using the word problematic. I think it's overused, but I do think there is some issues there because it doesn't seem like he even really cares about the kids in a lot of ways, right? He doesn't have kids of his own. He's in a gay relationship. I don't know what I feel like there's something that we're missing. Like you said, has he talked to a gay person? Like it's kind of weird there.
It's a caricature. It doesn't feel like a real person. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's
a lot of the rest of them feel like real people. I think
exactly. Yeah, exactly. And I think like to your point, Stone, a lot of what he's like the denial aspect of grief is manifested in that character. But unfortunately, like they were saying, the rest of the characters really seem realistic, and Benedict Wong's character does feel like a caricature, and I do think that part is a miss. And this is a movie I love, but that whole section, and I think is a huge miss.
Okay, I'll say one of my flaws with this movie, which is in its structure, was something that just really stands out to me, is in every single person's story besides one, we see Gladys, and I think that's very strange. When it comes to Julia Gardner's character, you see her in the ceiling. When it comes to Josh Brolin's character, you see her in the nightmare sequence when it's his son. She turns into his son. In the druggy sequence, you see him she's in the bushes, like peeking her head up. And then in Benedict Wong's sequence, obviously she comes and talks to his house, obviously with Alex. She doesn't pop up in the cop story. And I think that's a very, it's kind of like the most interconnected stories I think are Alden Ehrenreich and James, the druggies. I think those, they kind of go right into one another. They're really connected. So you can kind of say those are like fused into one story, but they're not. They're their own little chapters. So I thought it was very strange how Kreger just didn't include her at all. It really sticks out to me. I can't ignore it.
Yeah, I think that's fair. The jump scares just irked me. Like I understand. Like I just there's some stuff in this movie that just was like it almost feels like it's trying to say, okay, I'm a horror movie, so I have to remind the audience this is a horror movie, so I'm going to put in a jump scare or some type of gratuitous violent moment. Like it could just be like a psychological thriller. Like it doesn't have to be, obviously there's a supernatural element, so it becomes horror, but I just think like it kind of feels like a movie that's above jump scares like that, and then it just gives them to you, and I was just like, what is the point of that?
I agree with you to an extent. Like I don't think this is a horror movie. The same way, like I don't think Longlegs is a horror movie. I don't think like a movie like Fallen is a horror movie, and I don't think that this is gonna ruffle some feathers. I don't think Silence of the Lambs is a horror movie. Like these are psychological thrillers, and I think that you are correct. This, like, you can have mysticism or supernatural things in a film and it not be a horror. Like, I don't think you needed the jump scares. I completely agree. It did feel like that he's saying, like, I gotta make this a little scarier, right? I gotta put something in there to get the heart beating, because I mean, I don't think that the horror aspects of this is very. That's the other thing that keeps this from being a higher score. I mean, obviously I love it. I gave it a high score, but like, I feel like that stuff was like is overblown and like it's just not good in this movie. It's not a horror movie. It's not.
Like, he does have some good terrifying sequences, like that aren't jump scares. Like the whole her coming out of now I don't know why Julia Gardner didn't lock her doors, but we'll ignore that. Oh, yeah. But her coming out of the house with the scissors and just getting into her car and just you see the scissors just come up. That's not a jump scare. That's some really good tension that is built up. Like I said,
Dude,
I think the score in this movie
to stop. I thought they were going to take her ear off. That would have been sick. Like half the ear. Could you imagine? That would be scary.
It would have been a little bit difficult probably to wrap that around a stick.
Yeah, yeah. Well, you could like stuck it through the top, right?
Like I will say something with jump scares that bothers. I understand jump scares, and I kind of agree with you guys. I don't think they're necessary in this movie, but something that bugs me about jump scares is they have to make sense within the context of the story and what you have set up. Like a raccoon jumping out of a trash can, right? It's cheap, but that could happen, right? That makes sense. It doesn't make sense to me why Julia Gardner and why Josh Brolin are seeing her. It does not compute with what has happened in the story, why the two of them are seeing Gladys. They have not met Gladys. Gladys has not done anything to them. It's done something to their children, but nothing to them. So in my mind, there's no reason why they should be dreaming of her. It doesn't necessarily seem like she has that ability. When it comes to the druggie guy and seeing her pop up in the bushes, now that makes sense because he had already been to the house already. So possibly she was following him. Possibly she did do something to him when he left to make him see something like that. So that's something that really bugs me is you've got to make the scares make sense. Like Hereditary is like a haunting, right? So it makes sense that something's like standing in the shadows. This isn't a haunting. This is a witch.
Can I ask you guys a question about her?
Yeah.
This is where I get into the territory of like feeling like I'm taking crazy pills. Like when she was revealed as the answer to what is happening here, to me that is sort of like what the average person off the street might come up with as the answer to what is happening. Like, I'm sorry if that sounds mean, but like it's just a creepy old lady who's trying to use kids to extend her life. Like this is like, to me, that is like baseline writing. And I think when you have a 2 hour and 10 minute long movie and it's, you know, again, I understand he might've been inspired by Magnolia. I think when you say something like, oh, Magnolia, and like, don't say that shit. Cause like respectfully, it's just like people consider that to be one of the best movies ever made. A lot of people, this is not, I think even putting that out there just is ridiculous. Like to people,
I think you was just talking about the framework of the story.
Yeah, but
applying that
for sure. But like, I think don't even say it. Like it's a ridiculous non-comparison in terms of like writing. So I think like it's a creepy old lady. Cool. Like it was so uncompelling to me, and I feel like the way she was like played up and just, I feel like she was very like stereotypical and just not interesting. And I think it like the movie really lost me around then. I just was like, this is boring. I don't know.
To me, why she didn't feel stereotypical is because of how much Kreger used her. I feel like a lot of times you would get to the house and this character would just be in the house and they wouldn't have as many speaking lines and stuff like it's something you would find out just at the end, like The Witch, something like that. You find out all is revealed at the very end. It's some creepy person living in a house and that is it. But you actually have this character going to the school. You have this person going to Benedict Wong's place. And it felt like he wasn't afraid to actually make this like the seventh character of the movie in a way. I like how much he used her. I feel like other directors would have just hid her in the house and just left her be.
I think the stuff of her coming out of the house was also some of like the worst writing in the movie. Like, how did she even know where Benedict Wong lived? Like, she just appeared at his house out of nowhere. Like, is that just? I found that strange, and I also like the biggest the biggest piece of this movie that I think again is just bad writing is the entire concept of these parents having this stuff happen to them for weeks. You don't have a fucking job. Nobody's texting you one time. You don't have family. You don't have friends.
I saw your Letterboxd review.
It's bad writing. Like, truly, it's bad writing. And then there's this small, close-knit community. You built the entire movie around that concept. And then she gets to show up and say, oh, they both had strokes, or just he had a stroke, and I'm not going to explain what happened to the mom. But he didn't go to the hospital, and nobody knew, and he didn't talk to anyone about the stroke. And he's not displaying symptoms of a stroke victim. He's just kind of sitting here like what are we talking about? Like, it's just bad, lazy writing to get from point A to point B. And again, when you talk about Magnolia and you say the word epic and you're making this 2 hours and 10 minutes, and some of the movie is taking itself very seriously and some is not, I'm just like, I need more. Like, I need you to write a better movie. I need you to think more about like how this stuff is going to be explained. I need more of a reasoning as to why the villain is. I don't just need, I'm evil and I'm going to absorb the, like, I just, it turns my brain off. And I think like I did enjoy, I loved her performance. I thought she was killing it. And I get what you're saying in terms of her being out, and that was fun. But I think like none of those scenes made any sense at all when you would think about them for more than like 30 seconds.
I
You
think
make
that
good points. I think he needs another writer. Like, on with him. I think Kreger is very good at ideas. Like, I think the ideas for this movie and the idea for Barbarian are great. But I think the writing itself just needs to be a little bit better. And I think if you had someone in there to think of stuff like that, it could be, because he's the only writer on this, I think, and Barbarian.
Yeah,
So.
he is. I think that, so this is, you can take this or leave this, and I don't want to sound like I'm making excuses, but I do think, first of all, it's blasphemy to compare yourself to PTA. Just saying. But
I
also,
don't want to say that I'm saying he was compared, but just like, again, putting it out there,
I agree.
You're gonna hear it. So like,
I hear you. Listen, I'm with you on that. There's only one. There can only be one goat, and it's PTA. So I think that I feel like I'm just giving him too much credit at this point, and I'm putting my own like machinations on this film. But I feel like that everyone not picking up on this is part of the point. Like, one, it is a fairy tale. That doesn't give you an excuse to have a get out of jail free card. I can't, like, I'm hand waving your argument a little bit, and I apologize because I don't think it's fair.
No, I get your point.
But at the same time, I feel like that's kind of the point, is of people just missing clues and missing things and just skipping over things. Now, her showing up at Benedict Wong, that is kind of wild. Like, whatever, I don't know. I can't really explain that. Like, again,
she's creepy.
Yeah, I mean,
She's a witch.
creepy, but
Yeah.
okay.
Which is demon.
Like, do you guys think she was human? Like,
I think she is a witch. I don't think it's an accident that Josh Brolin paints witch on the side of Julia Gardner's car. And then it's basically like, this is like Hocus Pocus. Like, they're just absorbing people for youthfulness, you know?
Yeah. And
it's like a witch thing.
Yeah. It's very, so to your point, Dan, it's very unimaginative, whatever, you get the fucking point. It's not very in depth because it is very surface level. This is what a witch does. Right. But I do think that, the part of her that is interesting is she uses, like, she says he's got a touch of the consumption, which is like, 1800s speak for I know. I was like what? And so he says, like, isn't that something you died on the Oregon Trail with? Right? But that, that is 1800 talk, right? So presumably she's been alive for hundreds of years.
We haven't talked about it yet, and we're into spoilers. I want to talk about like the jokes that really worked on me. I think one of the funniest thing is when Josh Brolin, I remember Kreger saying this is like the one joke he actually wrote into the movie that he thought a lot of people would be funny. When he wakes up from the dream, he's just like, what the fuck? Like, after he just like, I feel like that's very relatable when people like have nightmares and they just wake up like that. But him chucking James over and over again at the very end of the movie was so damn funny. That was funnier for me than the kids chasing the woman. Like, just, it happened like 10 times. It was so good. And everyone was just cracking up when he just kept chucking him.
The finale of this film is
it's great.
So it's one of those things where it's like, you either love this or hate this. I bought into it immediately. I'm with you. I was cracking. I mean, I was laughing so hard at the last part of this movie I could see where people would be like, this is such a serious subject. It's so much about, but I think again, this is him dealing with grief. Laughter is the best medicine kind of thing. But yeah, he just keeps throwing him over, and then he like one of the last time he punched him, he's like, son of a bitch. Like why won't this guy just stay down? Like, come on. I thought it was hilarious. My friend I talked to, she was like, I almost puked, but when he takes the potato peeler, the veggie peeler, and starts peeling off his face, I thought that was hilarious. I was cracking up laughing. I didn't think it was gross. I just think I thought it was.
No, I see people say it's gross. I'm like, it wasn't that gross. Calm down, y'all.
I just thought it was ridiculous. I'm like, I was cracking up laughing.
Yeah, I think the ending of this movie, like there was some stuff that like I did think it was funny, but I think like as I was laughing, I was just like, this movie just. It's fine. Like I was just like, this is funny. I'm gonna laugh, but like, am I gonna come back and watch this again? No, like not really. I might watch it one more time, like at home. But I did think it was funny. I think a lot of general audience people might be like, that's stupid, or like if it's not your sense of humor, you might find it to be anticlimactic. I think there is something cathartic, watching these kids get their revenge for once when kids are so powerless and like, we live in a world where I think there's so much abuse of kids, and we're seeing this play out with our government right now, and like all this shit being investigated, like the most horrible things. And I think having a moment of like them getting to get back at the creepy old fucks that abuse them is very nice. I think the transition from that into the very end, I thought was so abrupt and frankly just not well done. I feel like they just ran out of time or money or something. And like, I think you could have found time earlier in this movie and put it into a more compelling ending. I honestly feel with the very end, they tried to leave this open for a sequel. That's kind of how I felt. In terms of like what happens to these kids moving forward. And maybe, I don't know. I feel like there's potential there if it makes enough money. But yeah, there was one other thing I wanted to say. Oh yeah, there was a couple things editing wise that were just like I didn't think made any sense. Like for example, when Alex, that's the kid's name, little kid, he was walking towards his parents at the door, and he like steps on the salt. Then it cuts, and he was like running through the door on the far side, and they were like just starting to chase him, and I was like, that makes no sense. And also, there was multiple times where people were being like Julia Garner was strangled for like 3 minutes, like lifted up in the air. Like she should be a Navy SEAL. Like she should be a commando. Like if you could survive that for that long, I mean. And there was a few things like that where I was just like, this isn't edited very well, and it's just like distracting me that she's just been strangled for the last 2 minutes and she's fine.
Yeah,
so
so
stuff
Chuck
like
was.
that.
I talked to Chuck today. He's pointing out the fact that the parents are just ripping down doors, but then when the plot wants it to be convenient, they can't get through the very last door to get to the kid. They're just like, come here. It's like you just busted down like 3 other doors. You guys should be good with that.
I did think.
I will say, good. Go ahead.
No, the choking thing bothered me too because I was like, I thought they were gonna kill her, like because it happens for so long. I'm like, oh, she's gonna die here.
Yeah.
And she doesn't. So I'm with you there. The door thing, I actually didn't even catch. I mean, yeah, I honestly can't wait to rewatch this movie. Unlike you, Dan,
they're terrifying, man. Those parents are terrifying. They're just screaming like they did the thing with their eyes. I guess the visual effect that they would do with these people's eyes, but chilling stuff.
Good performance from the dad, Whitmer Thomas. He's a comedian and musician. It says. I thought he was solid, like for the little bit of screen time he had.
Yeah, one scene that I wanted to bring up and just get your guys' thoughts on, because I think we didn't really talk much about it, and I think it's like unfortunate that it happened after one of the worst segments of the film, but the chase scene, I absolutely love that scene where Benedict Wong just tackles the shit out of her in the gas station, and that is the most horrific. That's like the most this movie felt like a horror film to me, is that chase scene, and then just to watch his body get exploded by a truck. That was the most intense part of the entire film, I think.
Benedict Wong is such a good performer, and like his performance in the movie is really good, and then his physical performance, where he was bulging his fucking eyes, and his physicality was so like. he is such a good actor. I made a video a while back about like Asian actors get treated like dog shit in Hollywood. They don't get opportunities. Like I think it's bad for every single minority group, but like the opportunities literally aren't there, and people will be successful and then just disappear. Like they just don't get more roles, and it's really bad. One of my favorite shows I've watched. One of my favorite shows really I've ever seen is Marco Polo, and he plays Kubla Khan. Like he's so good in that show. Like he's such a good actor, and I just wish he got more roles. And I was looking at his filmography today, and I was like, this is a joke. Like I just don't get it.
You know what's funny is I've been watching Three Body Problem recently, which I don't know if you guys have ever seen Three Body Problem.
I have.
And Benedict Wong is in that, and he's fantastic as Daishi. I mean, just absolutely fantastic in that role.
Dan, I don't know if you got this or not because you didn't respond to it, but did you get the audio message that I sent you about this movie?
I remember listening to it. What was it?
So
you were telling me something you thought was weird or funny or something.
Yes, I'm going to make a video about this tomorrow because I think I'm the only person on earth who has noticed this, and I don't think it's an accident. I want to know. Yes, I want to know why Kreger did it. Okay, because there's a sequence in this movie, I heard him talking about it, where Benedict Wong and his husband or boyfriend, whoever that character is, are watching television, and they're watching this documentary about some virus that's creeping into these ants, and Kreger has flat out said, obviously, that's what the ant is doing to these children, growing on them, controlling them, something like that. So he pays attention to what is on TV. That evidence, I've heard it from my ears, he pays attention. There is one brand in this movie that is more focused on than any other thing, specifically because it applies to the plot, and it is Ring cameras. And the most famous thing about Ring cameras is that it was a rejected concept on the show Shark Tank. And Julia Gardner is watching Shark Tank in her chapter. And I don't think that is an accident, and I cannot stop thinking about it. It's driving me crazy. I looked up and try to see if Zach Kreger had any connection with Shark Tank whatsoever. Breaking news, he doesn't. But it's something that I have noticed and no one on this planet has noticed. But I know Kreger did it for a reason. And I'm like, and I even looked up. I remember the episode. It's like these little little toys where it's like a string that you can like shape into something. Mm-hmm. But it's not. It would have been on the nose if it was literally the episode for the Ring doorbells. But yeah, I just can't stop thinking about it. And no one has any answers. I don't have any answers, but it's just.
Kreger's not going to tell you. He's not going to tell you.
No, I'm not that big. I'm the influencers who should get the opportunity
to talk. Yeah, the important questions. Yeah, I agree. I agree with that. But
like
it also
Zach Kreger, does your movie Slay King? Like, get that shit out of here. Like, I want to know about Shark Tank.
That video of Celine's song was so fucking funny. She was just stone faced. Like, I don't think that's funny. I was dying. Sick.
Oh, that was funny because the interviewer was like, "Oh my gosh," she's like, "No."
So that shit's not funny at all. One other thing I wanted to touch on, and then I'll shut up. Is we didn't talk much about Paul Ehrenreich's character getting stuck with needles multiple times. Did that do you guys think that had I was trying to what is he trying to say with this, or do you think that it's just one of those things that was kind of to freak you out?
Knowing Edgar probably just freak you out knowing him.
It is. I mean, I feel like that's kind of any cop's worst nightmare. But really, anyone. I mean, if you're reaching in someone's pocket and get stabbed with a. I thought he was supposed to be using meth. I think that was my assumption. So. But yeah, I mean that's definitely horrifying, and then getting stabbed in the face, but I don't know. What were you thinking there?
Well, in my head, I'm thinking like you said, it's every cop's worst nightmare. But it was like he's more worried about himself and getting pricked with a needle and then like you said, like traumatized this, than he is about finding the lost kids, right? So like he's more worried about his and this goes back to Uvalde, right? Like the police officers refused to go in because they were worried about getting shot rather than barging in the doors and getting those kids. And so I took it as like he's more worried about himself than he is actually solving the issues. And you know, as a cop, right? Like your job is to put your life on the line. Like that's what you signed up for. And it seemed like was more worried about himself than anything else.
Yeah, I mean, they sat in the stairwell for how long in fucking Vegas, right? When that guy was just shooting everyone, and they just sat there. And I mean, that's a whole other conversation. But yeah, I think that's very fair. It seems like everything that could possibly be a distraction for these people, they could allow to be a distraction rather than actually figuring this out, was just kind of took over their life. Alden Ehrenreich really was so good in this, and he's another person that I hope he keeps getting good opportunities. He's a good actor, I think.
Like I said, I think biggest thing for me of how good a director is, maybe this is such a shallow assessment, but it's just how good of performances are you able to get out of your actors. And I think Cregger's really good at that. Like I was going to say Austin Abrams for James, the druggie, I thought he was great too. I thought they were all super good. Like he has some of the funniest lines of the movie. Like the fact that he's like, I think those are the kids, man. They're just chilling in the basement and shit. They're looking all creepy. Pretty sure it's them. There's two wackos upstairs too. But I'm phobic. I'm phobic of police stations. I can't go in there. He's like, yo, meet me somewhere. But I found out. Yeah, I thought some. I thought something really I found some new information out was that he's actually going to be the star of Cregger's next movie, which is the Resident Evil film that he's going to take on. He's something. I mean, we have watched Resident Evil 1 on this podcast when we did video game adaptations, and something I found interesting was Cregger just loves writing. He really does, and he said that he had a script that he basically just applied to Resident Evil. He said he could have done it without Resident Evil, but it's a whole lot gorier, and it's just about one person going from one place to another. I'm excited for that. Maybe that isn't going to be as deep. Like it won't be trying to. Obviously, this feels like it has a lot of heavy subjects that are floating around it that everyone is talking about. But when it comes to like a Resident Evil movie, it's just going to be gore and zombies. I think he could really excel at that.
Yeah, and at first I was like, I was disappointed because like one thing I'm really stoked about this year, and one thing I'm gonna hopefully make some content about, and I'd love to hear you guys' thoughts on, is we've gotten so many awesome original stories this year. Regardless of how you feel about some of them, whether they're good, bad, or in between, this year has been the year of original storytelling. Like people cry and piss and moan about, so much sequelism and all this stuff. And yeah, it's there. But this year in particular, we've gotten a ton of original stories that are really, really awesome. And they've done really well at the box office. So that's one. So when I heard he was doing Resident Evil, I was kind of like bummed because, it just sucks because a lot of these creators get dragged into the Hollywood machine because of money and the opportunity and stuff. I want to see him keep making films that cost, $50 million, not $100 million. So, I mean, I love Resident Evil. It's one of my favorite video games of all time. There hasn't been a single good movie to come from it yet. So maybe he's the first.
He also said he wrote like a movie for DC called The Henchman.
He didn't write it for DC. He wrote a story surrounding DC characters and hasn't even like pitched it to him yet. It's very interesting.
Yeah, I mean, like he wrote it with like in the DC universe and like
the intention.
Yeah. It says low-level goon in Gotham City manages to take down Batman thanks to a stroke of luck, after which he becomes the talk of the supervillain town. Batman could briefly show up in the movie, as would Harley Quinn and the Joker. I think the comic is like the man who killed Batman. Or that was the man who killed Batman was an episode of Batman the Animated Series, but apparently he wrote that, and hopefully he'll pitch it. That could be fun.
That's interesting. Yeah.
Well, I mean, he's got Warner Brothers, right? So he's in the door of Warner Brothers, and then this movie's going to be successful. So I'm really curious. And supposedly James Gunn cares about filmmakers. So if he can, but does that fit into whatever universe or whatever yada yada he's trying to do? I don't know. I didn't think fucking Clayface did, but here we are.
Yeah.
So, whatever. But yeah, when you talk about original storytelling, I'll probably fix it. I'm looking at my list right now, dude. I look at my top 10 list of the year all the time, and I'm like moving it around. But all 5 of my top 5 movies right now are original movies, which I'm super stoked about.
Awesome year, man. It really has.
Yeah, I think some of the franchise stuff has struggled a bit too. So, yeah.
The only franchise stuff that I have up here is Superman and 28 Years Later, which I know they didn't like 28 Years Later, but I have Weapons in my top 5 right now. I'm probably, after our conversation, I'm probably going to dip it down a little bit.
I mean, even 28 Years Later, I mean, I didn't like it, but it is a very, like, it's part of a franchise, but it's still a very, it's a fresh idea, and it's you know, it's building
it's out of the box. Yeah, it's out of the box, right? Yeah, it's not. I mean, just real quick, like, so in my top 5, just because I'm doing it, like, Sinners is, like I mentioned, is number 1. Elio is number 2 for me. This movie is number 3. Those are 3 original stories, and they're the top 3 on my list. I didn't like Bring Her Back that much, but another original story, another that did really well. I like that we're starting to see more and more of these. And if Warner Brothers can continue to do this, they'll move up my list a little bit. Like, I hated Death of a Unicorn. That was the other one. Like, I absolutely thought that movie was terrible.
Movie sucks ass.
But at least it's original idea, I guess, right?
Sure.
I'm gonna say all the top ones of the year. The Battle of Wallace Island. Did you ever get around to that, Brian?
I haven't seen it yet. No.
You're gonna love
the movie.
Yeah.
Freaky Tales.
Absolutely loved it. That's in my top 10.
Say Freaky or Friday.
No. Friendship, another original story.
Yeah.
Great stuff. Dangerous Animals, I thought was good. There's a little movie. I haven't heard of this, but K-pop Demon Hunters. That was an original film as well.
Sorry, Baby, and Sovereign.
Yeah, Sorry, Baby is my number 1 of the year right now.
2 movies that are on my list. I didn't get a chance to see Sovereign. After we talked last time, I told you that was like that, and I Know What You Did last summer, the 2 movies that I was looking forward to seeing, and I saw Know What You Did last summer, and it pissed me the fuck off, and it's like right there with Death of a Unicorn being the 2 worst movies of the year.
I was way too nice in that movie.
Black Bag, a lot of people liked. Woman in the Yard, also original.
Yeah.
I like it, man.
Dude, I mean, we didn't even talk about, Together, Companion, Novocaine, like, all these are
Hard Eyes. Yeah.
Hard Eyes. Yeah. I mean, I'm telling you, this year, I take a lot of heart from this year. And we haven't even got into award season. We have PTA, The King is coming,
Dude, imagine if, because the whole story broke today, might be a good way to close this thought or this review out, but the whole story broke today of, even though David Zaslav, a lot of people don't like the guy, Warner Brothers has had a really good year, and 50% of 6 movies have all opened at $40 million or more this year, and that's never happened before for a single studio. And 50% of those were original movies. It'd be crazy. I don't know. I was picking it apart with one of my friends today. I can't remember who. If one battle after another. I don't know if it can get to 40, but if it gets, Dan's not very hopeful over there. Well, here's the thing, right? What did Killers of the Flower Moon open to?
Not 40 million. I don't think that made 40 million. Like,
yeah, I think it lost money, a lot of money actually.
No, it made 23. So do we think Leonardo DiCaprio, Warner Brothers can scrounge up 17? Leonardo DiCaprio is a big draw. Huge draw still, I think. I don't know. Are people more excited for whatever one battle after another is than they were for Killers of the Flower Moon? I think so. There's a lot more guns, a lot more shooting. They're trying to, and IMAX, I think it could maybe get there. I think so. Good reviews. It can maybe get there.
Listen, as the number 1 PTA fan of all time, there's nothing more than I want for his to have a film to make money, because he's never, ever, not a single one time has made a movie that's made money ever. I want it to make money, but I have a hard time thinking, one, it's not going to make its budget back. It was made for like $150 million, and which just makes me want to weep. But I can't imagine this movie even making $70 million, to be honest.
I'm trying to look up his highest opening weekends right now. His last one was not very high.
You talking about Leo or
No,
PTA?
Paul Thomas Anderson. Yeah, Paul Thomas Anderson.
His movies don't make money. I mean, like, he literally has never made a movie that's made money. He's lost money every single time.
Yeah.
It looks like the one that made the most money was There Will Be Blood. So the opening weekend for that, all these results are shit. Never mind, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, I mean, we can obviously go to Box Office Mojo, but it's not good, man. I love the guy, but he does not make films for the masses. And
I've got hope.
Dude, I hope you're right. But it's a 2 hour and 50-minute film. Like,
Did not know that. I did not know that. I forgot about that. Like I said, IMAX. I'm thinking IMAX, Leo. There's a lot more shooting. They're trying to like put off the fact that there is some action in this movie. There is some.
Don't have
stunts
we just
and
make a bet? Name your price. Over under 40 million. Name your price.
That's tough, man. I don't know. I'll circle back to it.
Okay.
What's it? Okay, hold on. Let me look up one more thing, and then we can log off here. Sorry, guys, that we're not talking about Wednesday or not. We're
Wednesday.
talking about weapons. Sorry, I saw Wednesday. What I'm looking up is what else is coming out that weekend. If it's the only film coming out that weekend, do we think there's a possibility?
I love your hopefulness. Like I said, I'm the biggest PTA stan of all time, but dude.
The only other thing coming out that weekend is fucking The Strangers Chapter 2 and Gabby's Dollhouse, Dan. So might bring some box office out of Gabby's Dollhouse, your poor beloved Gabby's Dollhouse. But
him comes out the week before, so that could.
But that's a horror movie. I don't know.
Yeah. Do you think people that watch horror movies aren't going to watch one battle after another?
Come on. Like, what do you think the highest it could be for an opening weekend for that movie?
The highest
20
it could be?
20 mil?
25? I don't know.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. 25. I'm put the over under at like 25 for opening weekend. Like
I'm not so confident, but I think there's so. I'm not going to bet nothing.
We already established you don't like gambling before we started the podcast. My heart's going to break. I'm just being honest with you. Like,
That is true.
PTA, he's going to be put in director's jail because I don't know. I cannot believe Warner Brothers spent this much money on him. I'm excited to see the movie. I hope it's awesome. But like, this might be the last.
Maybe they've been making their money. Maybe they just want awards. Like maybe they said we're gonna have a good year. So
I hope you're right, Dan. I hope you're right.
They have Sinners too. Sinners is like the only Oscar movie that's really come out this year so far. But that's what everyone's been saying. Like nothing else is really competing with it. Obviously, everything's waiting for the end of the year, but I don't know. I got a little bit of hope. 30.
Okay, we got it. 30.
Oh gosh. Well, guys, those are our thoughts on weapons and One Battle After Another's predicted box office. Let us know what you think One Battle After Another is going to open with in the comments wherever you're watching this, and let us know your thoughts on weapons. Thanks for tuning in, listening to us, and we'll see you on our next review. Peace out, everybody.